This is the exact system you need to implement in your brand to actually start pumping out more winning creators and become a 6, 7, like multi-figure business. And I've kind of brought it down into 4 key pillars that actually contributes to actually having a winning product and continually having winning products, you know, and not just burn out after like a week or so, or not having any ideas, or just simply, you know, guessing your hooks, copying your competitors, and not actually building your own unique angle that is actually competitive, you know, in the market. So I've kind of brought it down to 4 key pillars: research, strategy, clarity, and creators. And I'm going to go over each one of those right now. But before I go into the first pillar, like who the hell am I? My name is Stefan. I've helped multiple businesses scale to 6, 7 figures a year. And essentially I just help D2C businesses actually have a scalable model when it comes to creators, because it's very typical for people to get to 30 to 40K pounds per month or dollars very quickly, but then they really struggle to get past that mark and get to 100,000 a month, 200,000 a month, even to 1 million a month. And the main thing that I see consistent throughout all these businesses is that they lack the creative structure. And that's where I come in and provide the clarity that the clients need. You know, who are they targeting? Why are they targeting them? What are the actual pain points that are required to trigger a response? You know, what is the pain points that are required to get the person to purchase of the product or service from you, right? But anyway, this is the 4 key things that is required to actually constantly pump out winning creatives that actually allow you to scale your campaigns and, you know, be the big brand that you want to be. And each pillar you see here is very important to actually building that strong foundation when it comes to creators, and not just guessing, not just copying your creators, going on the Facebook ad library, looking at the ads that are winning the past few months, whatever, and just guessing essentially. But when you actually have a structure of where you're going to get this data from, or how you're going to get it, and where you're going to store it, because this is something that you need to be constantly referring back to in every single copy you make in your ads. And when you want to send your product to a UGC creator, they need to know what your brand is and how they should actually create the video, whatever it is, for you, so that you could get some more exposure, right? Or it could be for your video editor, so that they know exactly what you need, exactly what your ideal customer needs, you know, to actually trigger a buy. And it just helps everything run a lot smoother. So for example, if you're having a lot of revisions with your editor, this can provide so much clarity for them, so that they're not constantly asking you questions, and they are on the same page as you, essentially. Okay, so the research pillar is all about identifying the highest leverage customer avatar to drive scalable creators, messaging, and paid growth. And this document is all about building the ideal customer that's going to be buying your product, right? If you do not fully fill this out, then you're not going to have a strong foundation on your business. Everything literally relies on this, and this is why a lot of businesses fail. They like to skip this process and go straight to strategy, but this actually comes before strategy. So you need to understand who they are. Like, what is your audience identifying as, right? Are they aware of your product? Are they not aware of your product? You know, I'm not going to go too in depth on these terms, because I assume you may know them. If you don't, then I can make a more in-depth video in this part. But are they aware? Because depending on what stage they are at, that's going to really alter your targeting, right? Like your ads, your copy, everything is going to be altered to where the majority of your audience is. You wouldn't just have like an ad with a product image, because no one knows your product, no one knows who you are. But if they are unaware of your product, then you may need to actually have some text, list the benefits of the product, and actually have some reasons for people to buy your product, right? But it all depends on the type of stage that you're at. You should also know what the ideal age range as well for your customer, the location, what are they employed, are they not employed? Like for example, if you're selling a back correction product or whatever, then you may want to be targeting people that actually are employed, maybe at desks, because desk people typically have bad backs or something like that. What is their core pain points? If you understand how they talk about their pain, why they talk about their pain, then you can really embed that into your ad copy, in your scripts, in your, you know, image ads, whatever it is, because this is what's going to really bring out those pain points and trigger an emotion when they see your ad. And that's when they're going to be like, yo, this person's talking about me, they understand my pain, this is the person to go with. Like, if they understand my pain, then they may understand the solution to my problem. You also need to be thinking about the ideal outcome when it comes to using your product. Like I said from before, when it comes to back pain, the ideal solution to that product is pain-free, I guess. You know, pain-free, stress-free. They're not always worrying about their back. Maybe they can't pick up their kid anymore. All these little ideas is what you can really like embed it in your marketing to really trigger that response from your ideal, you know, audience. You should also be knowing what is their typical objections when it comes to, you know, the product or service that you're selling. If you're selling a course now, the typical things are, is it legal? Is it another scam? You know, do I have time to learn? Or if you're selling jewelry, for example, people may be thinking like it's just another AliExpress product. It may just be like some cheap Chinese product or some shit like that. Then you could be like, okay, USA, is made in the UK, is made in Belgium, is made in whatever country it is, you know, and it's not made in China, because that can sound very cheap. What is their buying triggers? What are the things that can really tip them over the edge to purchasing your product or service? What is their belief system? For example, if you're selling a dropshipping course or whatever it is, a lot of the time people may be thinking that dropshipping is saturated, dropshipping is expensive because of ads. Most people lie about results, but you can really just easily knock these objections out by just showing proof straight away. And this section is really helpful when it comes to creating the creative itself, because the editor, UGC, or whoever's making the creative can add in things that can actually help bend the viewer's viewpoint and their beliefs, you know, actually help change what they actually believe in, because it's not what you want. That, like, if they keep on believing that ads are expensive, they're not going to purchase it because it's not going to actually achieve their end goal. What is your viewer's language, right? What are the words that they are typically saying? If you can capture their words, their voice even, then it becomes easier to talk to them because they understand that language, you know? And this is where you're going to really find out what are the objections as well. You can find, like, all the answers to these questions, you can find them online. It's literally free most of the time. You can find them in comments, DMs, reviews, sales calls, even depending on, you know, what you're selling. You can really find out what are the typical objections that you're finding on sales calls, because that is literally the live market telling you why they do not want to buy your product or service. And then you can add that into your marketing, into your copy, and then tick off some more objections. And also, what is the type of things that you need to be adding into your creatives to push your viewer over the edge to purchasing your product? Because not everybody reacts in the same way. For example, if you are, this is very different, but if you are trying to sell a property, people don't typically believe photos anymore. They need to see visual proof to get an idea of how big the property is, because photos could be very altered, like depending if you're using like a fisheye or wherever it is, right? But maybe they want to see actual people handling your product so they know that it's a real physical product that's actually beneficial to them. Or maybe your niche doesn't like constant flashy content, like I've got a Lamborghini, I've got 10,000, I've made 100,000 this month, I've made X amount this month, you know, like maybe they are very sensitive to that type of marketing. So you really need to understand how sensitive your audience is to these type of things. And by having each of these steps filled out, you're going to really understand what are the things that you can lean into and what are the things to avoid, like, completely in your marketing. Like what I said before, maybe your audience don't like flashy content, so you should avoid it. And you should lean more into natural, less highly edited videos. Let it be more organic. So it's like they just stumble across your video, not an actual highly edited ad, right? This is kind of a little overview of what you need to be adding in the avatar research discovery document. That is something that you really need to fill out to the max, because this is the, like I said from before, it's literally the foundation of all of your marketing. Once you fill this out, that's when you actually start to get into the bad boy and understand and learn the strategy that you need to attract the ideal audience. So this document is something that is very, very, very important. Okay, so what is the strategy pillar? What is the creative strategy system, right? What is the goal? The goal is to build a repeatable creative testing engine that actually finds winners fast and actually scale winning creatives safely and profitably, of course, and compound learnings weekly, because everything from this document is going to be feeding right back into research, because people's ideas change, people's connections to different products really change. You have to be constantly thinking about what are they thinking, how you're going to get their thoughts, you know, all that type of stuff, and constantly feed it back into the document, into the research of your avatar. But if we get into it, this document is going to be listing out everything that you need to be keeping track of to achieve your goal, to achieve the main overarching goal. And this is kind of like a thing that you need to be on top of on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. For example, this document would be for a Meta/TikTok growth plan for 90 days. You should just quickly state what is a summary of this document so that everyone can quickly have a glance and know what it's about. What does success look like? This document is literally for the whole team. Everyone needs to be on the same page of what does the success look like in this team when it comes to the creative volume. You know, if you want to be having 100 creators a week, what is the goal for you in the 90 days? What does winners look like? What does the process look like? What does scaling even look like? And then you should also be listing out what are the targets for the 90-day period or whatever the period is for your business. What is the North Star KPI for this business? Is it that you want to improve your CPA at the end of the 90-day sprint or whatever? Is it the ROAS that you want to improve? Is it the cost per lead that you want to improve? Have that main overarching goal of this document listed right here. And then you can also include the other targets to achieve. And then what is the constraints that you want to eliminate during this time? Maybe it's that your production is very slow and you're not actually getting the videos back quick enough to actually scale to the next level. And that's where you need to actually have a structured approach to making creatives. Maybe you are having too many revisions with your editors, your creators, whatever it is, and you can eliminate that by actually, you know, filling out this document to the max. Or I'll show you later the creative brief that you'll be handing over to your editors or UGCs. Actually having a plan to the creative can actually reduce a lot of revisions. And you should also be making sure that you are listing the things that you literally cannot include in your marketing. For example, when it comes to TikTok, you cannot be offering guaranteed results. You need to change the copy in a way that it doesn't sound like it's guaranteed, but it's still very good results. Or what are some things that is a must in every single piece of content, whether it's video or image? Is it the colors that you need to be consistent with, so it's like a strong brand identity? What are the limits to the offers that you can actually include in your marketing? You don't want to just allow the editor or the UGC to just create random things that aren't actually true to the business. And then it's kind of similar again, what is the audience strategy? What are the things that are required to actually get the buy from your audience? This one goes very much in depth into the specifics and the detail compared to the research section, because now you are adding the audience language into your messaging, so that is actually hyper targeted to your audience. Offer, what is the offer? What is the messaging that you're trying to portray in your marketing? What is the product? What is the promise? What are the things that are actually going to push the audience over the edge? Why are they buying it? Just the bare bones of the product. You know, what is the product? What is the benefits? And what is the emotion that the audience is buying into when they make the purchase? And now SMT, what is the single takeaway that you want the audience to take away from when it comes to watching the video, seeing the image, whatever it is? There's a single message that you want to keep embedded in your marketing. Some of these sections are kind of redundant depending on the product or service that you're selling and the stage that you're at. This is just a very detailed document on, you know, when you want to really push to the 100K per month, because right now a lot of businesses don't even know what are the emotions that they want to put on the audience. You can also add what is the assets available for your products, so it's even easier for your editors, copywriters, whatever, to actually, you know, talk about it or add it into the media itself. What is the angle matrix? What are the priorities angle? What are the key things that you want to be embedding into your creators? For example, it could be, you know, you want to be like, you know, if you purchase this thing, you'd be getting 200 orders a day notifications. For example, if you're in a different niche now and it's more like health and wellness and like, you know, skin and beauty, that type of stuff, then it could be more about clear skin in 90 days, or I never felt younger after taking this supplement. I never felt younger using this cream, or something along those lines. And once you filled out every single part of this, now, like I said, depending on, you know, the business, then some of these things are not relevant. But once you fill out this whole document, then you got a fully built strategy to send to everyone. Everyone should have this piece of content. Everyone should understand the brand. Everyone should know the audience that they are actually trying to target, right? And now that you've fully built this is gonna massively help build the creative brief for clarity, right? So the creative brief, what is the creative brief? A creative brief is just simply instructions to send to an editor, to a UGC. It's to have a clear roadmap on the direction of the piece of content that you're creating to run as ads. But the thing is, every creative brief is going to have a different objective, because you're going to be constantly reiterating and going back around in circles. For example, this creative brief could be for identifying the highest leverage customer avatar to drive scalable creative messaging and paid growth. And another one could be for improving, like the objective could be improving the hook rate. And then another creative brief could be for improving the CTA, you know? Each brief is going to be very specific on the goal that they want to achieve. But if we have a look into what is actually inside of a creative brief, this little template, you know, you just state what it is, the example, the target avatar, so that people know what it is. You could be selling a jewelry product and you want to be targeting, you know, mothers or something like that. You want to be targeting daughters, or, you know, you want to figure out who you are actually targeting so that it's actually embedded in the messaging. You could include what the actual hook is, but you don't really want to make it strict depending on who you're sending it to. If you're sending it to UGC, then it may not be exactly what you wrote down, but you need to give them guidance, because only you know your brand the best. They just know how to make engaging content, but you know what makes content that sells. You need to be adding the script, or depending if you're sending this to a copywriter, get them key points to be adding into the section, or you just write out the script yourself. Just kind of depends what stage you're at in your business. What is the main message that you want to have in the body of the message? You know, what is the key takeaway that they should actually have when watching this video or seeing the piece of content that they're going to be seeing? What are some things that are must, you know, like what are some key things that you want to have in every single variant of this creative that is going to be created? What should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed? And these sections is actually very important. Like, it's not just text that you should be adding in here. You should be also adding in an example of the first hook that you want to be adding in to the variant 1, for example, or you want to have an actual structure, or there are specific things that you don't want your editor to be adding into it. Is there specific fonts that your editor should be using? Is there fonts that they shouldn't use? You know, you just want to make it very detailed and very like not subjective. It should be very yes no type of constraints when it comes to this section, and that's how you're going to really get the best out of your editor, the best out of your, you know, UGC that you're reaching out to, because now they have a visual representation of what you want or what you need. And then when you actually fill out this creative briefing, ideally you just want it to be like 1 page, 2 max, so that it doesn't just drag on for days. So it's actually clear to the person that's actually creating it. So once you actually have the creative brief and you have clarity on this batch of content for the month, for the week, for the day, whatever it is, right? Then you're gonna be like, okay, I want hook 1, I want hook 2, hook 3, you know, however many hooks you are having in this ad account. And that is how you're gonna be getting the best out of your creators, because you're gonna be having exactly what you need in every single hook. You know, you could be having like 4 hooks based on one clear creative brief, and it could be for anything. It could be for the image ads, so you can have different variants for your image ads. You don't just finish it off. You don't just do one section and don't look at it again. You have to constantly be going back and adding in the correct information, the updated information, because once you see the results after, you know, 7 days or however long you want to be testing these creators for, then you need to go back and create another strategy or update the strategy, and then create another creative brief for the next set of batches, right? And that's how you're going to constantly stay on top of winning creators and what is actually currently working in the market, because this is not just like a one-time thing that you do. You are constantly going back round and round and round in circles and actually picking up the small details that matter, because that's how you actually get a creative that lasts years, and not just, you know, you create a creative and it just lasts, you know, a week, it just blows out, it fatigues and it doesn't work anymore, you know. So this is the exact system that you need to constantly be reiterating in your business to be getting the scalable creatives, the creators that actually win long term. And if you'd like access to this, you know, whole diagram here, just send me a message on Instagram and I'll be more than happy to send this over. And I kind of went over each pillar fairly lightly. I didn't really go into depth into every single nook and cranny. You may want to know how you actually get the research, where you get the research, you know, how do you know that the research is actually reliable? The strategy, how do you actually build a strategy that doesn't just die after a week, you know, that actually lasts a few years, that is very proven and it works for your brand? How do you build clarity in the creative briefing for your UGC, for your editors? What are the key things that you should add? What are the key images? How should you structure it? And then the creatives, what is the actual process of having and managing multiple creators? What are the sheets that you need that is required? For example, I built a really cool automation right now where my clients can upload their media to a Google Drive folder, and that folder can be imported into a Google Sheet row, so that we can easily track each batch of content. There's so many different things that you can add into your system to make it run a lot more smoother for yourself and your team, and constantly build a pipeline for winning creatives.